Keanu Reeves, known for his acting skills and down-to-earth personality, is often assumed to have many hidden talents. This video reveals one of those hidden talents, surprising viewers and demonstrating the depth of Keanu's skill set. Keanu Reeves. The name alone brings to mind an icon. The Matrix, John Wick, Speed, and many other cinematic hits. He's dodged bullets in slow motion, taken down armies of assassins, and driven buses through impossible traffic. But behind the action hero image and global recognition lies something far deeper, more compelling, and, frankly, more human. In a world that celebrates loud personalities and flashy lifestyles, Keanu is something of a mystery. He doesn't throw extravagant parties. He doesn't chase clout or constantly update social media. He often rides the subway like an ordinary citizen, gives up his seat for strangers, and quietly donates millions to hospitals and crew members without telling the press. While many celebrities crave the spotlight, Keanu often walks in the opposite direction, quite literally. Paparazzi catch him wandering through bookstores, sipping coffee alone, or walking the streets in simple, worn-out clothes. No entourage, no show, just Keanu. It's not because he's shy. It's not because he wants to build an image. It's because that's who he really is, a grounded, introspective soul who hasn't let Hollywood consume his spirit. A man who knows how to listen, who values silence just as much as dialogue. And that's what makes his story so rare. Because Keanu's journey isn't just about being a Hollywood actor. It's about being a complete artist. Someone who doesn't fit into one box. Someone who expresses himself through more than just scripted lines and camera angles. Someone who carries a deep well of creativity and channels it into acting, music, writing, and even his way of life. For Keanu, art isn't performance, it's presence. It's living truthfully in the moment. Whether he's playing a stoic assassin or jamming on a bass guitar, he's always seeking authenticity, not applause. He doesn't need validation from tabloids or trending hashtags. His work speaks for itself, and his silence often speaks even louder. Dig a little deeper, and you'll see just how multidimensional this man really is. He's not just an actor who memorizes lines. He's a musician who has toured with bands, a writer who's published philosophical poetry, and a philosopher at heart who finds wisdom in both pain and simplicity. His life experiences, from deep personal losses to international fame, have shaped a man who sees beyond vanity and understands what truly matters. And yet, he never preaches, never claims to be enlightened. Instead, he just is authentic and curious. In many ways, Keanu's calm nature is almost rebellious in today's world. While others rush to brand themselves or shout over each other for attention, Keanu reminds us of the power of quiet confidence, of walking slowly in a fast world, of creating not to impress, but to connect. There's something almost spiritual about the way he carries himself. He's not trying to be a celebrity. He's trying to be whole. And in doing so, he's quietly redefining what it means to be successful. He's the kind of man who will show up early to set just to thank the crew. The kind of actor who gives away part of his salary so other actors or departments can get paid more. The kind of artist who still believes in passion over profit. Fans who've met him often describe the same thing. A warm smile, a genuine interest in what others are saying, and a softness in his voice that feels almost unreal. It's as if fame never touched his soul. But maybe that's because Keanu doesn't see himself as famous. He sees himself as a student of life, always learning, always growing, always creating. In interviews, he rarely talks about himself unless asked. And when he does, it's often with humility and reflection. He opens up just enough to show that behind the calm eyes is a mind full of thought and a heart that's been through both beauty and tragedy. And it's through this balance of art and life, stillness and movement, that Keanu becomes not just a good actor, but a complete artist. A man who doesn't just act for the camera, but lives through his art. Every project he chooses, every word he says, seems to come from a deeper place, a place of purpose. So yes, we love Keanu Reeves for the roles he plays, for the epic fights, the iconic lines, and the unforgettable characters. But we admire him, truly admire him, for the person he is when the cameras stop rolling. A man who reminds us that you don't need to shout to be heard, that you don't need to perform to be seen, that you don't need to fit into the world's expectations to create something meaningful. Because sometimes the most powerful art comes from the quietest soul. And Keanu Reeves, in his own still, steady way, is one of the most complete artists of our time. Keanu Reeves is known worldwide for his action-packed roles and deep, soulful characters. But there's a lesser-known side to him, one that rarely makes headlines or red carpet interviews. It's the musician within him. Long before the world saw him dodge bullets in the Matrix, Keanu was already finding a different kind of rhythm, not through stunts or scripts, but through music. In the early 1990s, when his acting career was soaring, Keanu co-founded a band called Dogstar. While some assumed it was a side project or a hobby to kill time between films, those who looked closer quickly realized this wasn't a vanity band. This was Keanu doing what he always does best, creating from the heart. He didn't want to be the frontman. He didn't crave the spotlight. Instead, he picked up a bass guitar, a grounding, supportive instrument that doesn't demand attention but holds everything together. It was a choice that spoke volumes about who he is. In a world of egos, Keanu chose to be the quiet rhythm in the back, the soul behind the sound. Dogstar played real gigs, toured across the US and Japan, and even opened for big acts like Bon Jovi. They weren't just some celebrity band. They were a serious group of musicians putting in the work. Keanu, often humble about his abilities, would spend hours rehearsing, writing music, and performing with deep respect for the craft. And what's more revealing, he never used his fame to push the band forward. No flashy promotions, no name dropping, just honest performances in local clubs and modest venues. In fact, many fans only discovered Dogstar after seeing Keanu live, shocked to realize that the Hollywood star standing on stage was also a passionate musician. His time with the band revealed another layer of his artistry. While film gave him structure, scripts, directors, scenes, music gave him freedom, a different kind of expression. On stage, he wasn't Keanu the action star. He wasn't Neo or John Wick. He was just Keanu, the artist. Vulnerable, real, connected. In multiple interviews, Keanu described how music brought him peace. It wasn't about chart success or being a rock star. It was about feeling the bass vibrating through his hands, the energy of a crowd, the joy of creating something out of silence. For him, music was meditation. It allowed him to step away from the intensity of Hollywood and reconnect with his inner world. The songs Dogstar created weren't commercial anthems. They were reflective, often melancholic, and emotionally textured, much like Keanu himself. Tracks like Corner Store and Superstar carried a kind of rawness that fans didn't expect from someone so private. It was as if, through these songs, Keanu was saying the things he never says in public. Not loud, but honest. What's even more interesting is that Keanu never sought to hide his musical side, but he also never advertised it. For him, music was sacred, a part of his identity that wasn't tied to fame or fortune. While many celebrities chase multiple talents for brand building, Keanu's musical journey was personal and grounded. It wasn't about being multi-talented. It was about being whole. After Dogstar went on a long hiatus in the early 2000s, many assumed Keanu had left that part of his life behind. But in 2023, something unexpected happened. Dogstar reunited, and Keanu once again took the stage. After nearly 2 decades, he returned not as a movie legend trying to relive his youth, but as a passionate artist answering the call of something he never stopped loving. Their comeback wasn't loud or flashy, just like Keanu, but it was filled with heart. Fans old and new showed up to hear him play, not out of curiosity, but out of respect. Respect for an artist who never pretended to be more than he is. A man who always chose soul over spectacle. During interviews about the reunion, Keanu spoke with a childlike excitement. He described the joy of rehearsing again, the thrill of performing live, and how much he missed the connection music gives him. It was clear this wasn't just nostalgia. This was a reawakening, But what does all this mean in the bigger picture? It means that Keanu Reeves isn't just a man of many talents. He's a man who refuses to let others define him. A man who never stopped exploring the different parts of his creative soul. His return to music after all these years isn't a career move. It's a creative return to a language he never forgot how to speak. And through it all, Keanu remains humble, still giving credit to his bandmates, still downplaying his role, still more excited about the art than the attention. In a world obsessed with image and applause, Keanu reminds us that true art is about expression, not validation. Whether he's playing a legendary assassin or quietly plucking bass strings on a small stage, Keanu is always in search of meaning, always in service of something deeper. And that is why his journey as a musician matters. Not because he's famous, but because he's real. He reminds us that we're allowed to explore, that our creativity isn't limited to one path, that music, like life, doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be honest. Keanu Reeves is more than a movie star. He is, in every sense, a complete artist. While the world knows Keanu Reeves as an actor, and some have discovered his musical side, there is yet another layer to this enigmatic man, one that many fans still don't know. Behind the roles, behind the guitar, behind the calm presence lies the soul of a writer, a poet, and a deeply reflective thinker. In 2011, Keanu surprised the world with the release of a small but emotionally powerful book titled Ode to Happiness. It wasn't a blockbuster film. It wasn't a chart-topping album. It was a quiet, meditative piece of writing, part poetry, part self-reflection, part gentle satire. Ode to Happiness is a short, illustrated book co-created with artist Alexandra Grant. Its tone is minimalistic and ironic, yet strangely comforting. It explores the modern obsession with self-improvement and the often unrealistic pursuit of happiness through the lens of simple, poetic phrases. With only a few lines on each page, accompanied by hauntingly beautiful black and white illustrations, the book invites the reader to pause and think, really think, about life, purpose, and contentment. It's not a motivational guide, and it's not written to impress. It's a piece of emotional honesty, a kind of soft whisper in a world full of shouting voices. And that's exactly what makes it so powerful. Keanu didn't write it to become a best-selling author. He wrote it because he had something to say, and he chose to say it not through interviews or speeches, but through the quiet elegance of poetry. In interviews following the book's release, Keanu explained that Ode to Happiness was born out of a moment of personal reflection, perhaps even frustration, with the constant pressure to be okay, to be happy, to fix yourself. He noticed how people, especially in the age of self-help culture, are always told to be better, feel better, act better, often ignoring the fact that it's okay to just be, to sit with your feelings and not rush to escape them. What makes this book even more interesting is its tone. It's not self-pitying. It's not dramatic. It's slightly humorous, self-aware, and deeply relatable. It reads like someone whispering to themselves in a quiet room. Someone who's been through both joy and grief and has come to accept that life is all of it. The pain, the beauty, the longing, and the letting go. And it doesn't stop there. A few years later, Keanu and Alexandra Grant collaborated again on another book titled Shadows, an artistic blend of poetic text and expressive photography. This time, the subject was even more abstract, diving into the concept of identity, duality, and the parts of ourselves that we hide or don't fully understand. In Shadows, Keanu explores the metaphor of the shadow, how it follows us, shapes us, and sometimes represents our fears, our doubts, or even our past. The text is fragmentary and dreamlike, but unmistakably intimate. It's the kind of writing that doesn't try to give answers, but rather opens up questions about who we are when no one is watching. These works revealed something incredible to the public, that Keanu is not just a man of action or performance. He's a man of deep interior life. His writing isn't about style or fame. It's about honesty, about facing the quiet parts of ourselves that we often ignore. And perhaps that's what makes Keanu so different from most public figures. He doesn't use his art to climb higher in the eyes of the world. He uses it to dig deeper into his soul. Whether it's through films, music, or writing, he keeps searching for meaning, and he invites us to do the same. Fans were surprised, even moved by this hidden talent. Many had no idea that Keanu was capable of such delicate, introspective writing. Some were even more inspired by the fact that he had never bragged about it. He didn't post it everywhere. He didn't market himself as a poet. He simply let the work speak. And that's a rare thing. In today's world, where people often feel the need to showcase every skill or moment of creativity, Keanu's quiet release of his books was a reminder that art doesn't always need a stage. Sometimes it just needs space, a blank page, a pen, and the courage to say what's real. Through his writing, we see yet another angle of Keanu's complete artistry. We see someone who has loved and lost, someone who has thought deeply about life's meaning, and someone who expresses himself not to impress, but to connect. He proves that being an artist isn't about being the best in one thing. It's about being true to yourself in everything. He shows us that hidden talents are worth exploring, not for validation, but for self-discovery. And perhaps the biggest lesson is this: you never really know the full story of a person until you look beyond the surface. Behind every quiet soul, there could be pages of poetry, chords of music, and dreams still waiting to be shared. Keanu Reeves, through his quiet poetry and literary expression, teaches us that the most powerful stories are often the ones whispered in stillness, not shouted from the rooftops. And in doing so, he continues to redefine what it means to be a complete artist. When you think of Keanu Reeves on screen, certain images instantly come to mind. Neo in The Matrix, frozen midair as bullets pass by. John Wick, moving with precision and pain through wave after wave of enemies. Jack Traven, risking everything to stop a speeding bus in Speed. These roles have become iconic, not just for their action and excitement, but because of something deeper, something in Keanu's eyes, his stillness, his conviction. It's easy to admire the spectacle, the stunts, the choreography, the adrenaline. But behind every frame is a man who works harder than most people realize. A man who doesn't just act, he immerses. Keanu Reeves is not someone who shows up, learns a few lines, and delivers a performance. He is a craftsman, deeply committed to understanding his characters, pushing his physical limits, and respecting the process of filmmaking from the ground up. Take The Matrix, for example. When he was cast as Neo, Keanu didn't just memorize lines and rehearse scenes. He trained for months in martial arts, learning kung fu, wire work, and fight choreography from some of the best trainers in the world. He practiced relentlessly, often for 8 hours a day, 6 days a week. He did this not just because the role demanded it, but because he demanded it of himself. He wanted to honor the vision of the Wachowskis. He wanted to earn the role. What makes this even more impressive is that during the training for The Matrix, Keanu was suffering from a spinal injury. He had a herniated disc in his neck that required surgery. Most actors would have postponed training or backed out entirely. But Keanu didn't quit. He pushed through the pain, worked around his limitations, and still showed up every day. His stunt team, his trainers, and even the directors were amazed. And his co-stars? They respected him for his quiet resilience, his work ethic, and his complete lack of ego. This kind of dedication isn't unique to The Matrix. For John Wick, Keanu went through an even more brutal preparation. He trained in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, judo, weapons handling, and tactical driving. He practiced at real gun ranges, performed live fire drills, and rehearsed combat sequences until they became second nature. In fact, many of the most intense action scenes in John Wick were done without a stunt double. That's Keanu rolling, grappling, disarming, and taking hits again and again until it looks flawless. But it's not just about physical training. Keanu takes emotional preparation just as seriously. In roles like The Lake House, A Scanner Darkly, or My Own Private Idaho, he explores vulnerability, loneliness, loss, and love. He doesn't just act out emotions. He feels them. You can see it in his quiet pauses, in the way he listens to his co-stars, in the stillness of his performance. He has a way of letting silence speak louder than words, of showing emotion through restraint, not theatrics. Part of this comes from Keanu's own life experience. He's known tragedy, losing close friends, enduring heartbreak, facing deep personal grief. And rather than hiding these emotions, he channels them into his work. There's an authenticity in his performances that audiences connect with. It doesn't feel like acting. It feels like truth. Perhaps that's why Keanu is so beloved by filmmakers and crew members alike. He shows up early. He learns everyone's name. He listens. He collaborates. And he goes far beyond what's required. In fact, there are legendary stories from sets that show just how generous and committed he is. During the production of the Matrix sequels, Keanu quietly gave away millions of dollars from his salary, redirecting the money to the visual effects and costume departments. He believed they were the true heroes behind the film's success. He didn't want recognition. He didn't tell the media. The story only came out years later, shared by the crew members themselves. On another occasion, he bought Harley-Davidson motorcycle for the entire stunt team after wrapping The Matrix Reloaded, as a thank you for their hard work and support, not as a publicity stunt, just as a genuine gesture of appreciation. This attitude isn't rare for him. Over and over again, people who've worked with Keanu describe the same man: respectful, generous, focused, and humble. He doesn't treat himself as above anyone on set. He treats the entire production as a family, one where every role matters. And that's what truly defines Keanu Reeves as an actor. Not just his roles or his preparation, but his approach to the craft. He honors every story he tells. He respects every person involved. He doesn't just perform. He participates wholeheartedly and selflessly. In a time when many actors chase stardom, Keanu chases growth. He doesn't care about headlines or fame. He cares about creating something real, something meaningful, something that moves people, not just in theaters, but in their hearts. Because for Keanu, acting isn't about pretending to be someone else. It's about becoming something true. And that is why his performances endure, not just because they're exciting, but because they're human. Keanu Reeves is more than a professional. He's a disciplined artist, a generous collaborator, and a relentless student of the craft. And in every role he takes on, you can feel it, not just in what he says or does, but in how deeply he cares. As we step back and look at Keanu Reeves, not just the actor, not just the musician, not just the quiet poet, we begin to see the full picture. A picture that doesn't fit into a single frame. He is, in the truest sense, a complete artist, a rare figure in modern storytelling who has found ways to express his spirit through multiple forms of art, without ever losing touch with who he truly is. And what makes his journey so inspiring isn't just his talent. It's the way he's defied expectations at every turn. In an industry where most actors are boxed into a single identity, action star, romantic lead, dramatic performer, Keanu quietly broke the mold. He never limited himself to one version of success. He took risks. He explored different creative lanes. He gave himself permission to evolve, not because the world demanded it, but because his soul did. He has played mythic heroes and everyday men. He's walked the line between science fiction and Shakespeare. He's been a lonely traveler, a digital messiah, a stoic assassin, a surfer, a rock bassist, and a wandering philosopher. But through it all, what has remained consistent is his honesty, his ability to disappear into roles while never pretending to be something he's not in real life. What connects all of these roles and expressions, whether through film, music, or poetry, is a quiet but fierce authenticity. Keanu doesn't perform to impress. He creates to express. And that's what separates him from the noise of celebrity culture. While others broadcast their every move for likes and attention, Keanu lets the work speak. He trusts in the quiet. He honors the slow path. And in doing so, he has become something few manage to achieve, a timeless figure. His presence transcends age, genre, and generation. Young fans know him as John Wick. Older generations remember him as Neo or Ted from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Some admire his love for literature and poetry. Others connect with his music. But everyone, across all ages, respects the man behind it all. Because Keanu Reeves is not just an entertainer. He's a mirror. He reminds us of the parts of ourselves that long for depth, silence, and creativity. He shows us that you don't have to scream to be heard. You don't have to be flashy to make an impact. And you don't have to follow trends to stay relevant. His journey also teaches us that we all have hidden talents, gifts we've buried because of fear, pressure, or doubt. Keanu's story challenges us to dig those parts back up, to explore the unknown within ourselves, to write, paint, perform, speak, sing, or create not for others, but for our own fulfillment. How many of us have told ourselves, I'm just not good at that, or it's too late to start? And yet, Keanu never let those voices win. When he wanted to play music, he learned. When he wanted to write, he wrote. When he wanted to reinvent himself on screen, he did again and again. Even after tragedies in his personal life, he didn't retreat into bitterness. He embraced stillness, leaned into his craft, and let creativity be his healing ground. His resilience wasn't loud. It was quiet, steady, profound, the kind that says, I'm still here, and I still have something to give. That's the kind of energy the world needs more of. And maybe that's the most powerful takeaway from Keanu's life. The idea that you are allowed to be more than one thing. You're allowed to be a work in progress. You can be both strong and sensitive, both public and private, both artistic and ordinary. You can live fully and still be grounded. In a world that often demands clarity, what do you do? Who are you? What are you best at? Keanu Reeves simply replies with a life that says, I am many things. And that's okay. His story reminds us that greatness doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it sits quietly with a guitar, or a pen, or a silent stare into the distance. And in that stillness, it changes lives. So whether you're someone who's already walking a creative path, or someone just beginning to explore your potential, Keanu's life offers this simple message. You don't have to fit the mold. You don't have to rush. You just have to be true. Let your curiosity lead you. Try the things that scare you. Learn the instrument. Write the poem. Make the short film. Take the dance class. Speak from your heart. Start small and keep showing up. Because like Keanu Reeves, your life doesn't have to be a performance. It could be an artwork, layered, imperfect, and beautifully real. And just like Keanu, you may discover that your greatest masterpiece isn't what the world sees. It's who you become in the process. So, what can we learn from Keanu Reeves? He never chased trends. He never screamed for attention. He simply followed his passions with patience, humility, and heart. He acted with intensity, played music with soul, wrote poetry with honesty, and lived with quiet grace. And in doing so, he became more than a movie star. He became a symbol of what's possible when you trust your inner voice. When you embrace all parts of yourself, especially the ones the world hasn't seen yet. Because being a complete artist isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. And that's the legacy of Keanu Reeves. So maybe it's time to ask yourself, what hidden talent are you waiting to share with the world? What dream have you put on hold because it didn't fit the plan? Like Keanu, you don't need permission to explore. You just need to begin. Thanks for watching. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs a reminder that their story is still unfolding. And always remember, your life is your art. So live it fully, live it honestly, and live it your way.